morning, ladies and gentlemen and MAK. This is another year of our tradition debate between our two schools. Because of the time constraint, I'm just going to emphasize that you only have 2 minutes. So when the bell rings, I have to get you off the podium. And for the first structural debate, you have this order of constructive and rebuttal. And after a short break, we're going to have a free rebuttal. Okay, that's the format of debate today. And because of time constraint, make your point succinct. Okay, so let's begin. First, proposition constructive.
Hello, Max. I want to use molecular biology to support my Darwin's theory of facts. First, in molecular biology, central concept. DNA can transcribe to RNA. RNA can translate to amino acid. Amino acid can form proteins. Second, in nucleotides, RNA is easier to form than DNA because DNA has a double-strand structure which is more complex and need more energy to construct. Third, as we know from the paleogeography, the original atmosphere is very different from today. It's made of methane, ammonia, hydrogen, and water. It is take of oxygen so that if amino acid is formed, it won't be oxidized. According to the above, we can make a hypothesis that our common ancestor, which we call Luca, was RNA basis. To verify this hypothesis, Miller done an experiment in 1953. He took the same elements as the original atmosphere and provided energy with heat to mimic the energy provided by lightning or volcano in ancient environments. This experiment shown that the inorganic compounds can turn into organic compounds such as amino acid or nucleotides. As I said in previous, amino acid won't be oxidized, so they can converge and gain energy to turn into protein by fusion. In conclusion, our all species had a common ancestor, and it isn't made by God.
First, opposition constructive.
Loud and clear, Joseph.
Okay, the first is theoretical evidence that it is problematically impossible for any life to evolve through DNA sequences.
Slow down.
Many atheist respected scientist Carl Sagan. He tried calculating the probability of a protein sequence forming an amino acid of a length of 100. The chances turned out to be 10 to the power of negative 130. Another research was conducted by intelligent design theorist Douglas X. He also found the chances as 10 to the power of negative 77. Finally, atheist scientists Fred Hoyle and Chandra found out that the chance of life happening was between 10 to 40,000. After this experiment, they knew that this was merely impossible, so they converted to CS. If an incident occurred with the probability of 7 of 10 to the power of negative 31, it will take 40 trillion years even if they attempted it 10 billion times in a second. Therefore, if we assume that living things came to existence by a tiny chance, there is no possibility that simple living things will acquire the ability to form new types of proteins that they did not have, because the chances of a protein sequence getting deleted by mutation is higher than a chance of 10 to the power of negative 77, where a new arrangement is formed. And now the theory of evolution claims that more complex and more diverse creatures were created through random changes in the DNA code created by chance.
First, opposition rebuttal.
Yeah. 13. Make it loud and clear.
Museum and textbooks believe that whale fossils are the clearest example of evolution. Pakicetus is a crucial fossil in the whale narrative, all of which are said to link a land animal to a very long and skinny whale known as Basilosaurus. In 1983, a partial skull fossil was supposed to be that of a whale-like creature and featured on the journal's cover. The rest of the Pakicetus was discovered a few years later, published in 2001, and turned out to be nothing like a whale, contrary to what scientists had expected. There was no blowhole, flippers, or no whale neck. Despite the fact that fossils were irrelevant to whales, scientists continue to claim that Epiceta should be classified as a whale based on its ear bone in the National Geographic program in 2009. However, unlike the whale's ear bone, which has a finger-like extension, the ear bone of land creatures known as archaeodactyls is plate-like.
First, proposition rebuttal.
Hello everyone, I'm Ivy. I use nucleic acid sequence to support my opinion. First, I will introduce what is nucleic acid sequence. It's a succession of nitrogenous bases in a nucleic acid structure. And nitrogenous bases are endless linear combinations to express genes. Each species has a unique nucleic acid sequence. The research of molecular biology shows that an organism has a DNA segment that has a similar sequence to a known gene, but is unable to function and complete the production of proteins. This kind of useless DNA segment, called pseudogenes, are one of the evidence that supporting a common ancestor among organisms. I did my own research to search the nucleic acid sequence of human Pampeniscus, it's a kind of chimpanzee, and kilohertz, and made a comparison. The result of the comparison is the similarity percentage of human and Pampeniscus is 90%, but human and kilohertz only 77%. That's because kilohertz are mammals that were differentiated earlier. Summarize the above. I think evolution is the truth because differentiated earlier species that DNA sequence have lower similarity percentage. Thank you.
Second, proposition constructive.
Hello everyone, my name is Kelvin and I'm on the proposition side of Darwin's theory of evolution. I believe mimicry is the direct and visible evidence to support the survival strategy in theories of evolution. First, I want to ask, what is the purpose of life? What is the meaning of life? Life can be indicated that living organisms or species that try to reach their maturity to reproduce by any means. Now, if you put another factor, which is time, into this, then it becomes evolution. Evolution does not necessarily need to create new species as long as genes have been expressed varyingly or differently while passing down from one generation to the next. Therefore, changes in phenotype. Because environment is changing, the life itself will have to change their living survival strategy as well if they want to fit in this world. Mimicry is one of those adaptations by making changes to their appearance from generation to generation in order to deceive predators or sometimes even prey, thereby getting survival advantage to keep up with this changing environment. Thank you.
Second, opposition constructive.
Today I'll be disproving common ancestry. What is common ancestry? Common ancestry is the theory that all living things and life come from a common ancestor. However, this is only a theory that has not been proven, meaning it cannot be considered a fact. If we looked at the earliest ancestor of life called Luca, meaning last universal common ancestor, Luca was established by the relations of all life and their genome. So there is no fossil evidence for Luca yet, and it was then concluded to have existed via the shared genotypes in life. Now, in the theory of common ancestry, it claims that simple species become complex via genetic mutation. Through a study by Proceedings of the National Academy of Science, or PNAS, they have calculated over the recent duration of time that mammalian species have a genetic mutation rate of 2.2 times 10 to the power of negative 9 per nucleotide base pair per year. However, according to the National Library of Medicine, mammals have 3.5 billion nitrogenous base pairs. This means that the rate of genetic mutation will be too little to have simple species of mammals evolve into a more complex species. For simple species to evolve into more complicated species, there's a need for more genetic information through the nitrogenous bases in the DNA.
Due to the evidence shown above, it shows that the rate of genetic mutations is too slow to add enough additional genetic information.
Second opposition rebuttal.
I'd like to agree with my teammate that Luca was false and to disagree with one of the claims made by my opponents. Someone stated that intelligent design was false. However, we don't need to prove intelligent design. We only need to prove evolution false. Jeffrey A. Coyne, a professor at the Department of Ecology and Evolution at the University of Chicago, said, quoted, "If evolution meant only gradual genetic change within a species, we'd only have one species today, a single high evolved descendant of the first species. Yet we have many. How does this diversity arise from one ancestral form? There are no specific fossil evidence to prove that LUCA, which stands for Class Universal Common Ancestor, does exist." William F. Martin of Heinrich-Heine University in Germany argues that LUCA was close to the origin of life itself, but the organism was missing so many genes necessary for life and must have relied on other chemical compounds from its environment. He quoted, "The fact that LUCA depended on a hydrogen and metal favors a deep-sea bed environment for the origin of life." The earliest evidence of life on Earth comes from fossils discovered in Western Australia, dated around 3.7 billion years ago. It was a fossil of a stromatolite, which was formed by layers of sedimentary formations that are created mainly by photosynthetic microorganisms. It does prove ancient life on Earth because it was the most direct fossil evidence pointing to ancient life. We must understand that LUCA was not the origin of life. The earliest evidence of life dates to around 3.7 billion years ago. Life can and may have existed before that, yet LUCA's arrival and its evolution through evidence into archaic and bacteria could have occurred at any point between 2 to 4 million years ago. There are no direct evidence to prove that this theory is correct.
When you come to the podium, please say your name first. Second proposition rebuttal.
Hi, my name is Louis. I believe mimicry is the visible evidence to support the survival strategy in the theories of evolution. Let's take Arapia as the first example. At first glance, they look like a coral leaf, but in fact, their wings are flat, and the patterns make you think it is three-dimensional, and it is exactly the way they confuse predators. And let's take another example. Hymenopus, they mimic the orchid and give it an advantage to hunting or avoiding predators. From these examples, we can see they obtain the characteristics similar to another species. In some evolutionary evidence, you might say evolution is invisible, but I think mimicry is the evidence that can be seen directly, because it is impossible that these organisms, they look exactly like another completely different species from the beginning in among the countless examples of mimicry in the world. They must go through something change in a very long time scale in order to be adapted in the environment and in order to survive in this world. Yeah.
The third proposition constructed.
Hello everyone, my name is Barrett, and I support Darwin's theory of evolutions. The environment will select suitable individuals. So today I will show you a piece of evidence about biogeography. This evidence is about camels. We all know that camel family have different types of camel. Oh, today camel are descended from the same ancestor. This ancestor lived in North America millions of years ago. During that same age, some camel can cross foreign strait to North Africa and East Asia. Others can cross eastern of Panama to South America. Once this camel reaches these different places, the variation will make them adapt to different geographic environmental for their survival, and they were selected by natural selections. So today we can find different species of camel in different places. and the most important is that they can mate with each other. So my conclusion is, due to different geographic environmental, the species will evolve into different characteristics.
The third opposition constructed.
My name is Tabby, and I'll be talking about Romer's Gap. So Romer's Gap, a 30 million year interval in which no transitional fossils exist to illustrate how sea species transitioned into land organisms. And it is a major roadblock for evolution. There is no transitional fish to tetrapod fossil evidence within this 30 million years interval to support evolution, according to Harvard vertebrate paleontologist Alfred Romer. The fossils found in Carboniferous deposits, evolutionists have attempted to shorten Romer's Gap to 15 million years. One of these was the proterops. However, it was discovered to be a fully terrestrial organism, hence not assisting animal evolution from water to land. Another important fossil that was expected to help close Romer's Gap was Crassicornis, a fish-like organism discovered in early Carboniferous strata, where a transitional form was required, and so evolutionists regard this as a transitional form. This organism, on the other hand, appeared to be a full-time aquatic creature with traits that allowed it to dive in water, but lacked the characteristics that would allow them to live on land. And so it was not a transitional form at all. If you didn't know, according to the dictionary, a fact is something that has been proven true. And we can see that evolution cannot be a fact because there is no evidence that the evolution of water to land organisms, the transitional fossils existed, which is an important element of evolution. And this is why I firmly believe that evolution is fiction.
Rebuttal.
Evolutionists state that Earth was formed 4.5 billion years ago, which supposedly gives organisms enough time to evolve from one species to another. Radiometric dating is one way that scientists use to prove this theory. Radiometric dating is observing the ratio between parent and daughter isotope in rocks, assuming that no parent or daughter material was added or removed from the rock, and the rate of decay has been constant. This test has been proven to be inaccurate since two rocks that are from the same place and have relatively similar ages have shown different results. Also, rocks that we know the age of gave older dates when tested. A volcano on the North Island of New Zealand that happened in 1954 dated 3.5 million years old. A volcanic bomb that blew out of Mount Stromboli in Italy in 1963 dated 3.5 million years old. A 10-year-old rock that from Mount St. Helens lava dome dated 350,000 years and older. Another example shows that the fossil instead of a rock was younger than the rock itself when both should have been the same age. A rock that was found near Redding, California was supposed to be about 112 million years old, but the maroon fossil stuck inside showed 36,000 radiocarbon years. No geologists were present when Earth was formed, so they could not be sure whether or not there were already daughter isotopes in rocks with the parent isotope. They just assumed that no daughter argon-40 atoms were in the rock regardless of how it was formed. According to history.com, unlike bones, which can survive for hundreds of millions of years, soft tissues fade away during the fossilization process. In 2005, North Carolina State University found fibers in the leg of a T-Rex. If dinosaurs went extinct at the time most scientists said they did, there wouldn't have been any soft tissue left in the bones, which proves that Earth isn't as old as it's believed to be.
The fourth proposition constructed. Okay, my mistake. The third opposition rebuttal, I'm sorry. The third proposition rebuttal, I'm sorry. Old age.
Hi, my name is Rainy, and I want to give another example to prove the evidence of evolution from biogeographical direction. I want to take an example like is Asian MAK. During the Ice Age, sea level dropped by 90 meters, so many land bridges appeared to connect landmasses. So monkey all over Asia can migrate to other landmasses. And after the Ice Age, monkeys stranded on separate landmasses. And after 10,000 years, monkey around the country evolve different endemic species to adapt different environment, but they still have a very close kinship. For example, we can see monkey in Japan have the thicker hair to withstand snowy winter, and it also have different degrees of development like feet and hand and tail, that's depending on their living environment. So we can see this monkey all have the same ancestor, but because they live in different countries, they evolve different characteristics to adapt their environment. That's completely with Darwin's theory of evolution. Above the example, we can see if the same species is geographically separated according to the living environment, the species with more dominant individual difference are more likely to survive and become local endemic species. That is complete line with Darwin's theory of evolution. Thank you.
The fourth proposition constructed.
I'm Flora. Good morning. I will talk about the fossil evidence of support to support the Darwin's evolution. We know that layer will deposit from deep layer to upper layer. It means deep layer have more old fossils. So we can find the modern species compared with the upper layer fossil, the fossil of upper layer. Then we will find that they will become more and more familiar. It means the organism will become more and more complex. For example, the horse would chase on an animal the size of a dog, called dung horse. And it means the creature would become evolved. Others, I think if you don't find the evidence to prove the Darwin's evolution is not true, but it doesn't mean it's always, it never find this evidence. So I think that doesn't as a proof, as a evidence to prove Darwin's evolution is false. Thank you.
The fourth opposition constructed.
Say my name first, right? Yes. Hey everyone, my name is Josh, and abiogenesis is false. And before I give my argument, I want to start with a quote. If there are 50 million Earth-like planets, where did any of them come from? Something cannot come from absolutely nothing. So before we even argue with evolution, you have to start with how the universe was created. And let's give you an alternative. Let's say it was already created. And the idea that living matter can be created is still extremely bizarre. If there was an argument about life starting from the simplest prokaryotic cells, there must be an understanding that even prokaryotic cells are extremely complex. This is because these prokaryotic cells have the ability to respond to stimuli, and in addition to that, the simple prokaryotic cells have a flagella motor that helps them move and guide their paths. Therefore, anyone who argues that eukaryotic cells evolved through many prokaryotic cells, a theory called endosymbiosis, they would have to argue how the simplest forms of life were even created. Thank you.
The opposition rebuttal.
Good afternoon, my name is Javier, and I would like to rebut the first speaker. So he claimed that the Miratori experiment successfully produced amino acids, and therefore this proves that life can come from non-life. However, the Miratori experiment has actually been disproven because the experiment does not accurately represent the conditions of old Earth. In a study in the scientific report, it found that the apparatus housing was crucial to the apparent formation of amino acids in the experiment, and the highly alkaline chemical broth dissolved a small amount of the glass reactor vessel, and therefore this could likely boost the catalyst of various reactions. This increases the total amino acid production and allows the formation of some chemicals which are not created by the experiment. And also, the fourth speaker claimed that there are more complex organisms found in the modern age. However, this does not prove evolution because this simply proves that organisms became more complex over time. However, it does not provide a correlation between the older organisms and more modern ones. And the lack of transitional fossils prove that evolution, in fact, does not exist. And furthermore, the waiting time problem is a significant problem that evolutionists failed to solve. This is first proposed by Michael Behe in 2004, and Behe's work is able to demonstrate that the waiting time for coordinating mutations in multicellular organisms are exceedingly long, much longer than the time available. And researchers at Cornell published a paper in 2008 also claiming that the coordinating mutations would take too long for it to happen. The research found that it would take 6.48 billion years to achieve a single pair of mutations. And according to the standard evolution story, the last ancestor that we share with chimpanzees lived only 6 million years ago. This proves that it is impossible for chimpanzees to have evolved into humans. And according to a lead researcher, the leading time problem cannot be...
Here, sorry. Wait until pre-rebuttal time. Fourth, proposition rebuttal.
Hello everyone, I'm Ivan, and I'm here to support the Darwin theory is true by using the evidence of fossil. This picture shows how the modern host and ancestor host, the relationship between each other. And at around 50 million ago, the ancestor of horse is very small and they have big toe. They have 5 toes, which can make it adapt the forest environment. They can run freely at forest. But after around 35 and 15 million ago, they decide to move into the plant environment, to the open field environment. So their size grow bigger and their toes start to degenerate. It can make them run faster at the plant and run faster than a predator. So they can prevent it from eaten by the predator. And this example show how they evolve so they can adapt the environment. So if they don't adapt the environment, they die and disappear. And this is why I think the Darwin theory is a fact, not a fiction. Okay.
The fifth proposition constructor.
Hello, I'm Jaden. I'm on the proposition side of the theory of evolution. And the main idea of my talk is homology is an important evidence of evolution. According to evolutionary biology, there are some evidence about homologous organs. Take vertebrates, for example, birds' wings and bats' wings and whales' fins and human hands. Anyway, the forelimbs of vertebrates, these all are the homologous organs. It means they have the same structure of bones, although the outlook of them are not similar. According to other studies, we can identify like which bone of our hands is the same as another vertebrate's forelimbs. It means they are from the same origin but turn to the different shapes then. Okay, and according to further studies, the researchers found that the ancestor of vertebrates is amphibians. So the theory of evolution exists. Due to evolution, the living creature now have various shapes with similar structure. Thank you.
The fifth opposition constructive.
So my name is Nicole, and I'm gonna be continuing talking about the fossil records. So the fossil records that evolutionists often reference has plenty of missing links. According to tomorrowsworld.org, 999 out of 1,000 fossils are missing in order to complete the whole picture. This shows that the evidence that is supposedly proving evidence that evolution is real, it is very lacking. And this tomorrowsworld.org compared this with a movie and saying that if only 1 in every 1,000 frames was present, then we wouldn't be able to get the whole picture. Because of this, then how can we understand the full idea if we aren't given all the facts? Also, a fossil was discovered and was supposedly one of the missing links that proved birds came from dinosaurs. This supposed new species was named an Archaeoraptor leonogenesis. Later, it was soon discovered by National Geographic that this new species was actually multiple fossils glued together by the farmer who found it. Academy for Distance Learning.com says that the farmer in question, understanding that complete fossils were more valuable than partial ones, is believed to have put the finished artifact together with cement. So this proves that not all evidence can be trusted, and it is highly possible that the fossils that are similar to this one are also false. Another thing I'd like to point out is, according to evolutionberkeley.edu, selection can only operate on the available genetic variation. A cheetah might run faster if it had faster alleles, but if faster alleles are not in the population from mutation or gene flow, evolution in this direction will not happen. So if there's not already a genetic mutation, then it will not be possible for other animals in that species to get the same thing.
Fifth opposition rebuttal.
Hello, my name is and according to evolution.berkeley.edu, there are limits to natural selection. For example, lack of necessary genetic variation, which means the presence of differences in sequences of genes between individual organisms of a species. And mutation is the changing of structure of a gene, resulting in a variant form that may be transmitted to subsequent generations caused by the alternation of single base unit in DNA. And selection can only operate on the available genetic variation, but if faster alleles are not in the population for mutation or gene flow, evolution in this direction will not happen. And this information is also found in evolution.berkeley.edu. Evolution is fiction because there are very limited sources to back up whether evolution is fact or not. Evolution is fiction because it is impossible for us to be born as gorillas or something and evolve into humans. It takes so many changes for a gorilla to change into a human because according to From a Frog to a Prince, biological evidence of creation video, it said that you have to have so many changes in the DNA structures in order for a gorilla to fully transform into a human and survive. And organisms who don't have the better traits still exist even when those that have an advantage already thrive or survive. If it were gorillas to start with and we evolved into humans, why are there still gorillas today not evolving into humans? Thank you.
The fifth proposition rebuttal.
Hi, I'm Alan. Today I'm going to use embryology to prove that Darwin's theory of evolution is a fact. And embryology shows the evidence that all vertebrates evolved from a common ancestor. And in these pictures, these are the embryos of 5 different classes of animals. And these 5 different classes of animals are all vertebrates. And we have fish, the amphibians like salamander, the reptile like tortoise, the birds, and the mammals like hog, calf, rabbit, and human. Even though these animals look nothing alike in their adulthood, but they all have scale slits and tails, and they all look similar in their early stages of embryo development.
and the embryo shows the similarity of different organisms at very early stages of embryo development, and this information indicates that all vertebrates stem from a common ancestor, and everything diverges from that. Thank you.
The sixth proposition, constructive and summation.
Hello everyone, my name is Fiona. Today I'm going to talk about natural selection, which is the main point of Darwin's theory of evolution. And I'm going to show you that drug resistance is a simple evidence of natural selection. So we all know that every creature needs food to supply their life. And when the plants that we use for food are growing, some bugs will come and eat them for living. And to prevent the plants from being eaten by the bugs, people invented a thing called pesticide. And when the farmers spread the pesticide on their farm, a part of the bugs will die because of the poison, and while a part of the bugs will survive because they have the gene that provides them from the pesticide. So we call this drug resistance. And when the bugs that survive, they will keep growing and reproducing the next generation. And when it goes on and on and on, we can know that it is a kind of natural selection, which confirms the theory of evolution. So it is an obvious example that we can observe in our daily life. So in conclusion, me and my team, we all believe that Darwin's theory of evolution is a fact. Thank you.
The sixth opposition, constructive and summation.
Good morning, everyone. Surprisingly, my name is also Fiona, but I will now be summarizing and concluding the evidence that my team has just presented to support our argument. First off, the most prominent argument that we have made is that the organisms mutating and creating completely new and complex species is ultimately false. This argument generally relies on fossils, but fossils in general also are unreliable. As Nicole has stated, that fossils have often been misunderstood. Depending on mutations and natural selections could be enough to change the color or thickness of fur, but this already takes decades. Imagine how long it would take for organs and limbs to mutate out. But you could say that this could occur over billions and billions of years, but what gives the fossils this antiqueness is actually also unreliable. This is also known as scientific dating. Radiometric dating and carbon dating is very unreliable, as they have been stated, for example, as Kimberly has stated, that in Mount St. Helens, it is modern rock, but when they dated it, it was dated back to be 350,000 years old. Additionally, the fossil record does not have enough evidence of in-between species or transitional fossils to be found. Although there are indeed a few, so much of them are lost, and it would be expected that there would be a plentiful amount if they had developed and evolved over billions and billions of years. This further disproves the validity of evolution from mutations and natural selection. All in all, the evolution theory is exactly as it is stated, a theory and not a fact, an idea that is not entirely supported by evidence and has not yet been proven, therefore not completely factual or reliable. Thank you.
Now we conclude the first part of the debate. We're right on the schedule, so we'll take a 3-minute break. If you need to go to the bathroom, we'll come back in 3 minutes, and we'll move into the free rebuttal time. And think of whom we're going to challenge you, the questions that you're going to ask your opponent. Okay, come back in 3 minutes.
If they call your name really and ask you to answer their question. Minutes. We're down to at 35.
他们问10分钟，回答的话基本上5分钟，对。
So in case they call you, if you still have questions for them, we can go back to the.
Debate.
We can.
从现在开始都是加分，我们要挑战问题，或是回答问题，都是加分的。OK。Are all your students back?
We're ready.
Okay. Who wants to fire the first shot? Anyone? The floor is open to all debaters.
Questions on what you've heard from their arguments, perhaps?
You have the answer? Ready? Or you can restate your questions a few times. I think Xavier didn't finish, and Xavier question made 2 challenges. Maybe if Xavier could restate these questions, we will answer them.
Yeah, Javier, the points you did not get to share a while ago, maybe you can just state them. Those last few parts of your speech.
I mean, I have like 1 sentence.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, come to the podium. Yes.
So what I
Last part. What's your last part?
I don't know. It's the-
Oh yeah, say that.
Wait, what? Did I just restate it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, according to the researchers at Cornell, the researchers used known mutation rates and population genetics equations to calculate the time it would take to get two coordinated mutations. And the result that they found was that a single pair of coordinated mutations would take 6.48 billion years to achieve. And according to the evolution story, the last ancestors we shared with chimpanzees lived only 6 million years ago. So according to the lead researcher, the researcher quote stated that the waiting time problem cannot be honestly ignored, and therefore this problem justifies a complete reassessment of Darwinism. So what is it?
So what is the question?
What type of question?
Maybe what they can say about it.
So how I have a question. How does how can you solve the waiting time problem?
Okay, how can you say the waiting time problem? Okay, any one of you. 就说几百万年的时间啊，这个没有办法，就是产生演化。Come on, okay. I don't know. We're not quite sure what the question was. Oh, you have a question? We're not sure. We're not clear what the question was.
The waiting time. The research done by Cornell found that it would take 6.48 billion years to achieve a pair of mutations. And according to the evolution story, the last ancestor we share with chimpanzees lived only 6 million years ago. So this shows that there is not enough time for chimpanzees to have mutated into humans. So how can the waiting time problem be solved since there is not enough time to achieve the necessary mutations from one species to another?
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Okay, last time you showed the sequence of the evolution, chimpanzee to humans. Who showed that photo? And the first proposition and the fourth proposition. No, then. Okay, who can answer that? Anyway, who can answer that? Who can answer that? Okay, you have another question? Do you have a question for them? There was another question about the genetics. I think also posed by Shafir. Shafir asked questions the first proposition team and the fourth proposition team. About DNA?
Well, what's your question? Sorry.
Xavier questioned the first and the fourth proposition teams on their points. We like to answer them. So that
You did a question again.
No, you haven't muted them. They would like to answer. Are you going to answer them for us, or do we need to repeat Javier's points?
I would like to, please repeat the questions.
Yeah, just say your about it. And
But it does say what's your question.
and then just give them prove.
So, your first speaker claimed that the Murray experiment was evidence that life could have come from non-life. However, in the study of scientific reports, it found that the apparatus housing was actually crucial to the apparent formation of the amino acid. And therefore, this experiment was not accurate in its results because the highly alkaline chemical froth dissolves a small amount of the glass, and this actually boosts the catalyst of various reactions, and therefore this increases the total amino acid productions, and so the result is not accurate. So, since the evidence has been disproved, how can life come from non-life?
Okay, come up.
Okay, it is indeed impossible to make a first cell that presents, but after all, the natural environment isn't clear today because we can go back to the ancient environments to see the situation. But Gilbert published an article in Nature in 2010. He used species from different kingdoms to compare DNA sequence and make the model of the common ancestor and the model of the non-common ancestor. The conclusion is that with the support of the model, the possible of the common ancestor is higher than that of the non-common ancestor, because the non-common ancestor cannot explain the DNA sequence between different species, different kingdoms, strong correlations. Yeah.
Okay, do you want to add? Okay, did that answer your question?
No.
Unfortunately not. Okay.
Okay, then we'll move on to the other question, to the fourth team. He had the question.
But am I supposed to go for this? Hey, your mouth almost down.
I've never seen the fourth one. That's the fourth.
He might want to say about that Vietnam and
Yeah.
So the first speaker claimed that the records show that the fossils went from simple to complex. However, does this show causation from simpler fossils had evolved into complex organisms? Wait, I restate my questions. I'm kind of messed up. So, I want to ask the fourth speaker a question. Who's the fourth speaker?
Fourth speaker. Stand up. Okay, Ivan.
Oh, yeah, no.
Constructive rebuttal. Yeah. Do you see that? Which one?
White shirt.
Right there.
Laura.
Floor. Okay, come on. Okay, she's ready.
So since there are no transitional fossils that can be found, how can you prove that the simple organisms had evolved into complex organisms instead of them just being formed at different times? How can you prove that they evolved into each other?
Let's reserve our comments. Thursday, Joseph. Reserve your comments on Thursday.
You want more?
你说 complete 那个重简的呢？更早。
Okay, help her out, help her out. Okay. Okay, yeah. Mandy. Okay, there's a substitute. Okay, Mandy will answer that.
My voice. Because the complex fossil records isn't found in the prior time, so we assume that the complex fossil record is evolved from the more easier one, not easier, simple one. Yes.
Simple.
Thank you.
Okay, actually, Mandy, supposed to be on your side. Yeah. Any other questions? You're so nice. Yeah.
Because they went from simple to complex, you assume that they evolved. So, however, in order for something to be taken as a fact, it should be based on evidence, not assumption. So, how does this help yourself?
Couldn't hear. We lost the image.
Oh.
Okay.
Hold on. I think the owl. Hold on, we have trouble with our camera. Travis, we need your help. The owl camera that we have disconnected from our. Okay.
It's okay. We can see your face. If the speaker comes up to where you are, we can see the face. Okay. So who will be the next? Okay, I think our side rests. They took your point. No challenges. How about your side?
No challenger from your end?
No.
They hold on.
Okay.
Special class, any challenger? Because I think they just said they're no, you can't do that. They kind of like, rest their case. Is that correct?
If you don't have challenges, yeah.
I have to went to the camera.
Okay, we do have one challenger.
But I'm going to rebuttal our proposition team.
Okay, she's going to actually rebuttal her own side. Okay.
Actually,
Which one? Which one?
I want to rebuttal.
Okay.
The third rebuttal. He stated that the camel, the space of the camels evolved due to the geological.
It's not coming from my left.
But opposite to this opinion, because the change of the traits can only prove that the species adapted for the environment, but cannot prove the microevolution from a species to another brand new species. Okay, thank you.
Okay, there was a challenge about the camels. Camel person, come up. Did you hear the question? Okay, come to the
能证明它的表征是为了适应而改变，但是你不能证明说它是一个新物种。然后你可以借由这个来去证明说，就是 micro evolution， 但没有办法证明 macro evolution。
能不能回答 ？Can you answer?
要想一下。
Okay. Okay. We have an internal debate here, but I guess if you guys have no questions for us, then we will conclude today's debate. Considering the technical difficulties, should we conclude today's debate?
I'd like to think so, yes. We changed cameras right now, but if there are no further questions from either side, I am guessing we are good.
Okay. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen at the Morrison Academy. It has been a very inspiring exchange. We will see you next week. Bye.